Wednesday, Addams, that pale little girl with the braids and the deadpan stare. You've seen her dance. You've quoted her lines. You think you know her. But Wednesday isn't just some goth icon dreamed up for television. She's something much older, much darker. Before she had a name, before she had a face, she existed in shadows, in mourning rituals, in cults, in the ancient myths of daughters born from darkness itself. She was the child at the funeral who never cried, the girl the villagers whispered about, the one who played with bones while other children played with dolls. Her story doesn't begin in a TV writer's room. It begins in 1938, when a disturbed cartoonist started sending sketches to the New Yorker. No names, no dialogue, just a Victorian mansion where a nameless family poured boiling oil on Christmas carolers, where children played with guillotines, where death was the punchline, and nobody was laughing. Charles Addams created something that shouldn't have existed, a child who embodied every parent's worst nightmare about what their daughter could become. Cold, emotionless, fascinated by suffering. But here's what nobody tells you. Wednesday wasn't invented. She was remembered, pulled from the collective unconscious, where we bury the parts of childhood we're taught to fear. Welcome to Buried Tales, where the girl you thought was fiction has been haunting humanity for centuries. Charles Addams made his home in Westfield, New Jersey, in a house that seemed torn from the pages of his own dark imagination. A towering Victorian with sharp gables, surrounded by a wrought iron fence that kept more than just visitors at bay. The property carried its own grim history, marked by multiple deaths that had occurred within its walls over the decades. Inside, Addams surrounded himself with artifacts most would find deeply unsettling. Suits of armor stood guard in corners. Crossbows hung ready on walls. His daily driver was a converted Bentley hearse, black as midnight and impossible to ignore. His Manhattan apartment revealed even darker obsessions. His coffee table wasn't made from wood or glass. It was crafted from an actual coffin lid, polished to a shine that reflected the faces of uncomfortable guests. But perhaps most telling was his fixation with cemeteries. This wasn't some romantic fascination with death symbolism. Addams studied the architecture of the dead with scientific precision. He spent hours sketching real mausoleums, memorizing the layouts of crypts, tracing the stonework of tombs. His favorite haunt was Llewellyn Park Cemetery, where he would wander among the elaborate burial monuments, taking notes on their construction, like an architect planning his next project. When pressed about his peculiar interests, Addams revealed something profound about his worldview. He was captivated by the silence surrounding death, all the things people refused to discuss, the truths they buried deeper than any loved one. To him, the Addams family weren't monsters or freaks. They were the most functional family in America. While everyone else pretended death didn't exist, the Addamses embraced it. They showed genuine affection, fierce loyalty, and complete comfort with their own mortality. They simply lived life in reverse of everyone else, and that reversal made them more honest than their neighbors could ever be. The real horror Addams was exposing wasn't about creatures or ghouls. It was the suffocating conformity of suburban life, where everyone pretended to be normal while hiding their own dark truths. He once observed, "Normal is an illusion. What's normal for the spider is chaos for the fly." Through this lens, he transformed our deepest fears into something we could laugh at, even if that laughter came with a shiver. When Charles Addams passed away in 1988, his widow, known as T. Addams, created a memorial that would have delighted his twisted sensibilities. Rather than a traditional gravestone in a conventional cemetery, she arranged something far more fitting. In a pet cemetery, yes, a cemetery meant for beloved animals, she placed a plaque that simply read, "Charles Addams and family." This wasn't where his body was laid to rest. The location of his actual remains has never been publicly disclosed, adding one final mystery to his legacy. Instead, this modest marker in a place reserved for dogs and cats became the unofficial shrine to the Addams legacy. It stands there still, a perfect joke from beyond the grave, a human memorial in an animal cemetery, mixing death with humor in a way only Charles Addams could appreciate. Visitors who seek it out understand they're not visiting his body, but something perhaps more authentic, a lasting reminder that even in death, Addams refused to follow the rules. Charles Addams created characters without heartbeats, and he understood where darkness held its beauty. He searched for it in abandoned mausoleums, studying the sharp edges of weathered marble, finding peace in graveyards where footsteps had long stopped echoing. His art breathed with ghosts because ghosts had always been there waiting. His world held no tragedies, only ancient customs dressed in cobwebs. Every chuckle dripped with formaldehyde. Every candlelit hallway trembled with the energy of a seance in progress. And there, tucked in the shadows, forever observing, stood the girl. The origin of Wednesday's name runs deeper than most realize. Wednesday Addams didn't receive her name through random selection from a calendar. Her name emerged from an old rhyme, one that carried a curse within its verses. During the 19th century, British mothers and fathers would whisper a particular rhyme over their children's cribs, believing it could reveal their destiny. This nursery rhyme, known as Monday's Child, claimed to unveil a child's future based on the day they entered the world. More than superstition, it served as a blueprint for life itself. And Wednesday's blueprint promised something terrible. The rhyme unfolds with deceptive simplicity. Monday's child is fair of face. Tuesday's child is full of grace. Wednesday's child is full of woe. Thursday's child has far to go. Friday's child is loving and giving. Saturday's child works hard for a living. But the child that is born on the Sabbath day is bonny and blithe and good and gay. The other children inherited beauty, elegance, adventure, kindness. Wednesday inherited pure, unfiltered sorrow that seeps into your marrow and makes a home there. Her line stood apart from all the others. While they described traits or talents, hers described an affliction, a burden pressed into her very essence before she could even speak. Few characters in entertainment history carry names so heavy with predetermined doom. The name became permanent in 1964 when the Addams Family television series demanded identities for Addams' previously nameless cartoon creations. A producer remembered that haunting nursery rhyme from childhood, and Wednesday emerged from those ancient words. Though Charles Addams hadn't originally conceived the name himself, when producers presented it to him, his acceptance came without hesitation, as if he'd been waiting for it all along. Do you know the day of the week you entered this world? Which one claimed you as its own? Share your answer below. I'm curious to know. Creating this walk through Wednesday's history took more than you might think, shifting through image archives, deciphering faded photographs, and following trails that some would prefer remained forgotten. If this stirred something buried within you, even the slightest tickle, please leave a like. Your support keeps these dark corridors open and allows me to continue excavating these buried truths. In the 1800s, death lived differently among us. It wasn't hidden behind hospital walls or whispered about in hushed tones. Death was a house guest with strict demands. It arrived with schedules, dress codes, and rigid expectations carved into society's bones. Entire manuals existed, teaching the living how to properly honor the dead. When a husband departed this world, his widow disappeared into black fabric for 2 full years. For a child's death, the mourning stretched even longer, sometimes consuming what remained of a mother's life. Grief wasn't private, it was theatre, performed for watchful eyes. The fabrics on your body transformed, the jewelry around your neck changed meaning. Every social interaction followed scripts written by loss. Even casual conversation bent to death's will. Life didn't simply pause when death arrived. Death became life itself, consuming everything it touched. For women, sorrow took physical form through mandatory uniforms, dresses black as coal, thick veils obscuring faces from the world, gloves ensuring no bare skin touched daylight. Their bodies transformed into monuments, not celebrating those who had passed, but marking the unbearable weight carried by those still breathing. Some households stripped away their curtains, replacing them with suffocating black creep that blocked out hope along with sunlight. Clocks froze at death's exact moment, their hands refusing to move forward. Every mirror in the house was shrouded, as if the living couldn't bear to see their own reflection anymore. The house itself held its breath, Silence wasn't just expected, it was demanded, enforced, absorbed into the very walls. And then there were the photographs, children dressed in their Sunday best, arranged carefully in chairs, cradled in beds, or held in the arms of mothers whose eyes never moved, never blinked, never looked away. The camera captured something, but it wasn't life. It was evidence that life had already slipped away. Sometimes the photographers would paint eyes directly onto the developed prints, creating the illusion of consciousness where none remained. They used iron braces hidden beneath clothing to prop bodies upright, metal frames that held the dead in place like puppets, waiting for their final performance. These images aren't fiction. They exist in archives and attics, in forgotten albums that most people can't bear to open. We won't show you the real ones here, only recreations, but understand that when you see a character like Wednesday Addams, you're witnessing the echo of this haunting tradition. To anyone glancing at these portraits, they appeared almost normal, just another family photograph. But to the grieving families who commissioned them, these images represented something far more desperate, the very last visual memory they would ever possess of their child. This wasn't morbid curiosity. This was ritual, ceremony, a careful choreography of remembrance. Death became something to document, to frame, to get exactly right, because there would be no second chance. If you want to truly understand Wednesday Addams, study those Victorian death portraits, the alabaster skin, the rigid posture held in place by hidden supports, the small hands folded with unnatural precision, the formal clothing that no living child would willingly wear, and most disturbing of all, that eerie stillness that settles over a face when all expression has fled. Wednesday embodies the Gothic aesthetic, but her roots run deeper into history than most realize. Her entire appearance mirrors the genuine culture of mourning that modern society desperately tried to forget, to bury alongside the bodies themselves. The black she wears isn't rebellion. It isn't teenage angst or a statement against conformity. She dresses in darkness because for hundreds of years, wearing black wasn't a choice. It was mandated by law, a visible mark of loss that some wore like shackles. It was a uniform of grief, a social sentence that some young women never escaped, spending their entire lives draped in the color of mourning, moving from one loss to the next until they themselves became the photograph. Wednesday Addams exists as a living Victorian mourning doll, preserved through the strange alchemy of dark comedy, a child crafted in the image of those funeral portraits that once lined parlor walls. She was designed to disturb, a figure that shouldn't provoke laughter, but somehow always does. Throughout history, there have always been girls like her, ghostly pale, unnervingly still, possessing a quietness that makes others uncomfortable. She doesn't shriek or cry out like other children. She simply observes, watches, waits, like those painted eyes in the photographs that seem to follow you across the room. Writers like Edgar Allan Poe never wrote about love. What he gave us was something far darker, pure, unfiltered obsession. Lenore, Ligeia, Madeline, Usher, these weren't just characters. They were dead girls, dying girls, women trapped forever in that terrible space between life and death. Poe understood something most writers refuse to admit. Beauty terrifies us because we know it won't last. So he crafted his women to exist in that exact moment where beauty meets decay. They had to be dying or already dead, because only then could they become eternal. Only then could they haunt us the way they haunted him. For Mary Shelley, she handed the world Frankenstein, but first, the world handed her unimaginable loss. Death stalked her from the very beginning. Her mother died bringing her into this world, bleeding out just days after Mary took her first breath. Later, 3 of her own babies would die before they could even walk. Her husband, Percy, would drown in the Mediterranean Sea, his body washing up on shore days later. But when she sat down to write Frankenstein, she had already buried her first child. That raw, consuming grief bled into every page of her manuscript. When Mary Shelley created Frankenstein, she wasn't imagining horror. She was transcribing it from her own life. The novel was never really about a monster stitched together from corpses. It was about the terrible consequences of reaching for power that should remain untouched. The power to create life, to reverse death, to play God. And this this meditation on grief and creation came from the mind of an 18-year-old girl writing by candlelight while storms raged outside. That summer of 1816, Mary Shelley was barely out of childhood when she arrived at Villa Diodati on the shores of Lake Geneva. She found herself among literary giants, Percy Shelley, Lord Byron, and their circle of radical thinkers. The skies had turned dark that year, choked with ash from a volcanic eruption half a world away. Trapped indoors by relentless storms, they challenged each other to write ghost stories to pass the time. The villa itself embodied a cruel irony. These enlightened minds had gathered to create their own perfect society, their own utopia of art and philosophy, but it crumbled into scandal, betrayal, and darkness. That collision between noble ideals and brutal reality, between the dream of progress and the weight of grief, that's the beating heart of Frankenstein. That's what an 18-year-old girl understood, while the men around her wrote forgettable tales. The story of Mary Shelley deserves its own dark chapter. If her life and the true horror behind Frankenstein calls to you, I'll dig deeper into those shadows. Wednesday stands as an heir to the Gothic tradition, a child molded not by trauma, but by finding solace within darkness itself. Like her literary ancestors, she doesn't simply react to horror, she orchestrates it, controls it, bends it to her will. She becomes both witness and architect of the macabre. Where others recoil from death's cold touch, she examines it with the same clinical fascination that Mary Shelley once brought to mortality and the boundaries of science. Both Wednesday and Mary Shelley emerged as teenage girls navigating worlds of chaos and shadow. The parallels run deeper than coincidence. Frankenstein rose from the page as a corpse stitched together and animated by dangerous obsession. Wednesday walks among us as a living elegy, a girl who drapes herself in death's essence as naturally as others wear perfume. These creations spring from the same well of mourning and unease that has always fed Gothic literature. Mary Shelley's dark vision established the blueprint for everything that would follow in Wednesday's universe: the fascination with dissection and decay, the crackle of lightning bringing forbidden knowledge, the exploration of society's darkest taboos, women discovering strength through ancient, dangerous wisdom, death transformed from tragedy into something beautiful, even desirable. When Charles Addams first put pen to paper, he was channeling that exact strain of morbid curiosity that Shelley had unleashed upon the world. Wednesday emerged as the spiritual descendant of Shelley's revolutionary worldview, a girl who inherited not just the Gothic tradition, but something far more ancient, something that reaches back through 4,000 years of human darkness. Long before Eve drew her first breath in paradise, another woman walked the earth. Her name was Lilith, and her origins reach back through millennia of forgotten stories. She emerged from ancient Sumerian mythology as Lilitu, a wind spirit that swept across barren deserts in the dead of night, her presence felt in every unexplained gust, every shadow that moved when it shouldn't. She was the whisper that slipped through sealed doors, the chill that crept down spines without warning. Centuries passed, and her story evolved. When she finally appeared in Jewish mystical texts, she had transformed into something far more significant than a desert phantom. According to these ancient writings, she was humanity's first woman, formed from the very same dust and earth that created Adam, not carved from his rib, not shaped from his flesh. She stood before him as an equal, born of the same divine breath, the same sacred soil. That equality became her curse. When Adam commanded her to submit, to bow beneath him, Lilith did something unthinkable for that time. She refused. And when he persisted, when he wouldn't hear her words, she spoke the ineffable name of God, a name so powerful it could shatter mountains, and vanished from Eden. Not banished, not cast out. She left on her own terms, walking away from paradise because paradise demanded her servitude. The angels came for her, dispatched to drag her back to her designated place. She told them no. For this single act of defiance, they transformed her into humanity's first monster. They called her a demon, a child killer, the mother of all evil spirits. History rewrote her as a cautionary tale, a warning to any woman who might dare speak that same dangerous word. No Consider Wednesday Addams against this backdrop. While Lilith fled paradise for the wilderness, Wednesday retreats into shadows by choice. While ancient texts painted Lilith as a demon to be feared, modern society simply labels Wednesday as strange, disturbing, wrong. Yet beneath these surface differences pulses the same rebellious heart, a young woman who looks at the world's expectations and turns away. Lilith abandoned Eden to forge her own kingdom in the darkness. Wednesday abandons convention to create her own twisted wonderland. Both carry the mark of the outcast, the exile, the one who chose loneliness over submission. They represent every woman who ever valued her freedom more than acceptance, who picked autonomy over approval. And here's what makes them truly terrifying to those who would control them. When the world that rejected them crumbles, when those who condemn them cry out for forgiveness, neither Lilith nor Wednesday look back. They simply continue walking forward, leaving the flames to consume whatever they left behind. Deep in the shadows of Greek mythology lives Hecate, the goddess who rules over magic, witchcraft, ghosts, and necromancy. She is the keeper of the night itself. Her domain stretches across every threshold known to mortals and spirits alike. She stands guard at crossroads, watches over doorways, wanders through graveyards, and commands those moments when reality blurs, the instant of birth, the final breath of death, the mysterious space of transformation. Hecate appears in three forms simultaneously: the maiden who embodies youth, raw intuition, and fresh beginnings; the mother who channels maturity, unbridled power, and manifestation; and the crone who carries ancient wisdom, death's knowledge, and inevitable endings. But here's what most misunderstand. She was never evil. Her darkness served a purpose far more profound than mere shock or fear. Those who walked between worlds considered her sacred. She became the guardian of outcasts and witches, the protector of those society cast aside. And Wednesday Addams? She's that same ancient force, reborn and reimagined for our modern world. Her danger doesn't come from violent outbursts or chaotic rage. No, she's dangerous because she embraces what the rest of us desperately try to forget: our grief, our silence, our hunger for revenge. In the old stories, Hecate carried blazing torches through the spaces between life and death. Wednesday lights her candles in the cold silence of crypts, where Hecate once guided restless spirits to their eternal rest. Wednesday makes friends with them instead. Hecate drew her strength from understanding those liminal spaces that terrify others. Wednesday draws hers from feeling completely at home in them. Neither demands power from anyone. They simply embody it, existing beyond the boundaries that contain everyone else. These are the girls who never flinch when the veil between worlds grows dangerously thin. Wednesday walks that razor's edge with the same certainty. Among Hecate's three faces, Wednesday represents the maiden, but forget everything you think you know about innocence. She's the girl standing at the threshold of her own power, possessing knowledge that should take decades to earn. Her body remains young, but her soul feels impossibly ancient. Both figures inspire the same primal fear because of what they represent: the dark feminine that refuses to be tamed. This is a girl who needs no rescue, no salvation, no hero to save her. She already calls the underworld home. Wednesday doesn't emerge from tragedy like some survivor learning to cope. She's what grows in the ruins afterward, something darker, something that was always meant to be there. Think of her as electricity coursing through a Gothic experiment, no longer hidden behind pretty words or dressed up in costumes meant to make her acceptable. She carries a bloodline, an inheritance written in the language of shadows and sharp wit. Try to force her into a cheerleading outfit and you won't get compliance. You'll get carnage. Those pom-poms will drip red because Wednesday doesn't dance for anyone. She transforms every performance into a haunting. There's no mystery to decode here. She stands exactly as she appears, unfiltered, unapologetic, and that brutal honesty is precisely what makes her powerful. What Netflix and Tim Burton created goes deeper than entertainment. They've resurrected an archetype we've been conditioned to fear and suppress. For generations, society demanded its daughters smile through pain, swallow their rage, maintain the facade of sweetness, even while breaking inside. The good girl blueprint, passed from mother to daughter like a generational curse, each one learning to hide her darkness behind politeness and pastels. Then Wednesday arrived, wrapped in midnight fabric, wielding silence like a weapon, offering no justification for who she is. Her very existence challenges everything we've been taught about how young women should behave. This archetype keeps returning to us through horror films, through anti-heroines, through ancient myths dressed in modern leather and dark lipstick. Pop culture keeps passing the microphone to women who refuse to flinch, who won't beg, who don't shatter the way the world expects them to. Why does she resurface now, in this particular moment? Perhaps because we're all tired of performing, because grief doesn't care about our carefully curated personas, because we're drowning in spectacle, force-fed chaos until we're numb. And in that numbness, silence begins to look like the only real power left. The most commanding presence in any room is often the one who speaks the least. Wednesday doesn't chase attention. She pulls it toward her like gravity, like a black hole that consumes light itself. She isn't quirky. She's ritualistic, moving through the world with the precision of someone who understands death is always watching. She isn't following trends. She exists outside of time, a constant shadow that's been here long before we learned her name. And perhaps that's why we need her now more than ever, because she reminds us that there's strength in refusing to smile when the world demands it. If this story resonated with something dark and quiet inside you, I'd love for you to join our community here at Buried Tales. Like this video and subscribe, not for me, but for the stories that deserve to be told, the ones that live in the spaces between what we show and what we hide. I'm curious, which version of Wednesday speaks to your shadow self? And here's what I really want to know. Have you ever felt more powerful in your silence than in your words? Share your thoughts below. These conversations, these confessions in the dark, they're what make this community something special. Before you go, remember this: the characters who haunt us most are often the ones who show us who we really are. When nobody's watching, they live in the quiet moments, in the spaces between heartbeats, in the truths we're afraid to speak aloud. And those truths, the ones we try so hard to bury, well, the darkest tales are always buried